4 is possibly the section that has the second most mistakes made throughout accounting. We are going to be using this a lot, and it gets confusing for students. I think the other one that students make a lot of mistakes on are going to be the reconciling, but section 5-4 deals with petty cash. Right, accounting 2, petty cash gets a little confusing. Once you get it, it makes sense, but you really have to keep it in your mind, because a business is going to have petty cash. Does anyone have any idea what petty cash is? Small amount of cash? Like, what do you think? Postage?
Just basic cash on hand for any miscellaneous.
We're in the office ran out of toilet paper, run it down, buy some. Right? Out of coffee filters, go to here's some money, go buy some coffee filters. Random things that the business needs to have. And again, is the business going to let everyone there sign a check? Does not make sense. But if we really need to go get those items, the business needs to have some type of procedure in place so that somebody could go buy it without saying, oh, the business will pay you back later, because who's going to do that? Not a lot of people, would you agree? If you're the owner of the business, you're like, whatever, yes, I get it needs to be taken care of, but as an employee, you're not going to be like, I'm not going to wait for you to pay me back later. This is the business stuff, but you need to pay for it. Interesting side story on this one. So on Sunday, I'm taking 27 awesome kids to Madison for an FBLA trip, staying overnight in a hotel on Sunday night, and we're staying overnight again on Monday night. So how many hotel rooms do you think I have?
1.
9. I do have 9. Okay. So I have 9 hotel rooms. How much do you think that bill is? Over $1,000. Okay. Very easily over $1,000, because you have 9 rooms for 2 nights. Okay. Actually, we have a hotel. The bus driver, too, so I technically have 10 rooms, because the bus driver gets their own room. So what do you have to do when you check into a hotel? Give them a credit card, right? Now, here's an interesting thing that I go round and round with the school on this. The school does not have a credit card I can take. Hotel will not let you check in without a credit card. What do they expect me to do? I have a check. I'm paying for the rooms with a check ahead of time, but the hotel wants a credit card because why? Damages, right? Evan's in the room, he throws a ball, breaks the TV. Right? Could that happen? Things happen like that. So if they have a credit card, they're going to know after the fact that they could go back and recoup damages. Now, am I going to give them my credit card? No, my husband and I get in fights and arguments about it because he says, why are you using our personal credit card for work-related opportunities? But then the school won't give me the credit card because they don't want to have credit card numbers out there for other people to use. So I'm stuck in a catch-22. Does that make a little bit of sense? So obviously, some other FBLA chapters, their own chapter physically has their own credit card that they would use, so that way it only relates to their funds. I can't quite get our school to buy on it, but how would you feel as an employee if that's what your boss told you to do? And oftentimes when you check into a hotel, they're going to put the first night of the stay on the credit card just to hold it. Does that make sense? So, if my hotel bill is $1,600, how much are they going to put on my credit card? $1,300. How would you feel if your boss told you to do that with your card? Pretty fantastic? Wouldn't that make you pretty pissed off?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I do, and every time I need to get a hotel room, I go round and round, and I get hotel rooms at least 3 times a year for FBLA. for multiple nights. There are other times that I don't have to make the reservations. The state of Wisconsin deals with it for me, and then that makes me happy because then I don't have to worry about my credit card stuff. But you have to have in place procedures that make it efficient for your business to run. So now, people that don't take kids on trips think that this procedure works fantastic. They don't see any problem with it at all. Because why? It's not their issue. They don't have potentially a $2,000 bill coming up on their credit card. And this is what they'll say, oh, if they process it on your credit card, we'll pay you back after the next board meeting. They have board meetings once a month, and it's usually the third Thursday. So if this happens to happen within the same week, I would have to wait over a month to get reimbursed. And if I pay that bill on my credit card immediately, I don't have to pay interest charges. But if they don't get me the check until after my billing statement, what do I have to have? Interest. I'm sharing this story not because I'm mad at the school, well, a little bit, but as a business, you have to have procedures and policies in place to protect your cash. Okay? And when I need to have a check written for us to stay in the hotel, I have to have a copy of what the bill is, I have to have how many nights, and I have all that. And there are multiple people that sign off and say, okay, you can have this check. I have to check with the hotel because some hotels won't accept a check, right? Do you think a hotel would accept a check from me personally for $1,700? Right? Doesn't that seem a little sketchy? Most people, instead of carrying a check for $1,700, would put it on a credit card, right, instead of writing out a check that way. So different policies and procedures in place. So our petty cash are not going to deal with this $1,700 hotel bill. It's going to deal with that, hey, we're out of paper, go buy some. We're out of ink for the printer, go get some. We need staples. Small items that someone can run out. And now this is what's going to happen. Okay, so Jory, hey, we're out of paper for the copier. Go get some. So that's what somebody in the office would say. And Jory would say, okay. He would go to the petty cash box, and he would, in the petty cash, there's going to be a set amount for the business. Each business will determine how much petty cash they're going to keep on hand. How much they're going to keep on hand is determined by how much they think they're going to use in a month. You don't want to have $500 in petty cash sitting around, because why? Yeah. Why do you need to have $500 sitting around if it's not going to be used? You're probably going to be looking around $100, $125, or maybe $150, because that would probably cover you for a whole month. Okay, so Jory would say, okay, I'll go get some, give me some money from petty cash. So he would go ahead and take, let's say, $40, go to the store, find the paper, and that paper is going to come to $35. So Jory's going to hand over the $40. He's going to get back $5. He's going to get the paper, and he's going to have a receipt. Would you agree? Sounds like a normal sales transaction. He's going to drive back to work, walk in, put the paper down, go back to the petty cash location, and he's going to put in the petty cash location the receipt, which is going to show a sales of $35, and he's going to put $5 back. Sound right? Now, what happens is this goes on all month. Various things will have to happen. All right, Katie, you got to go in and buy some staples. So now she's going to grab $10, going to go to the store, buy some staples, go back, do the same thing. Put the change back and put the receipt in there. At the end of the month, what we have is she bought some supplies, he bought some supplies. Have we journalized the fact that our business has more supplies yet? No. So we have to go through and do what's called replenishing petty cash, because at the end of the month, the physical amount of cash in the box is not what it should be, because we have spent some of that cash on assets that we need to do. Maybe it was paying for advertising on a flyer that somebody is doing, or a donation. People are asking for a donation, and they gave some cash donations for that. You had to go out to the paper and place an ad, and you took some cash to pay for the ad, whatever it may be. But what you need to have for petty cash has got to be that receipt, and that receipt needs to indicate what you had purchased with it. Okay? So we would go through and we would look at what we bought throughout the month. We'd line up all of our receipts and we say, okay, these 3 receipts right here are all for supplies. Total added up, it equals $52. And then here I have advertising of 20. So I have 52 and 20, so that should be $72. Now, if the amount of cash that I was supposed to have in there was 100, how much cash do I need to have now to replace what I used? It's really not a trick question. It's really that easy. I started with 100, and I spent $72 between supplies and advertising. I need to replenish at $72. Does that make sense? Because at the beginning of every month, the physical amount of cash in the box needs to get back to whatever we came up with that value. And they will always tell you, replenishing petty cash, it needs to go to 100, 125, 200, whatever the value would be that the business is going to use in 1 month. Okay? So replenishing petty cash is going to be done every month. You're going to use some cash, get a receipt, go through and do it every month, every month, every month, every month. Now, the only thing that gets done once for the business is physically establishing the petty cash fund, and this is where it gets a little tricky. What we have to do is we go through, and our business determines we need to have some petty cash on hand to make payments. Okay? So they go through and they determine, and they need to physically write a check out for cash, go to the bank, exchange the check for cash, and they go back and they put that amount of cash, let's say it's $100 in that box. So once for the business, not once a month, but just once, that business is going to establish that petty cash account. So I'm going to write a check. That check is going to be made payable physically to the word cash. Because if you ever need to get cash and you didn't have an ATM with a debit card, you would just write a check out to cash, go to the bank. They would really give you cash in exchange. You don't make it payable to the bank just for cash. So once the business is going to go through and determine how much they're going to have, and then every month we have to go through and replace it. So what gets tricky is the transaction we have for replenishing petty cash will say, replenish petty cash, and then it will give you the amount for supplies, advertising, miscellaneous, blah, 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 blah. This is where students get tricked up because they see replenish petty cash. And they're like, oh, we have an account petty cash we need to affect. You don't. Because my $72 example, I had 52 for supplies, and I had 20 in advertising. So when I replenish petty cash, I'm going to affect supplies by $52. I'm going to affect advertising for 20, and I'm going to write a check for 72, and then my petty cash is going to be replenished. So the only time you are ever going to use the account petty cash in a transaction is when you establish the fund. And now this example here is a little bit tough because pretty much within 5 minutes we're establishing and then we're replenishing, when in fact it doesn't happen that way. Once the business is formed, you establish that petty cash within the first month or so, and then you don't do anything with that transaction again unless you needed to change the amount. But otherwise, every month at right around the end of the month or the beginning of the month is when you'll be replenishing it. So that's why I said replenishing petty cash is going to be one thing that you're going to be doing over and over again. So that is what our transactions look like. Let's try the first one together, shall we? We shall. Okay, here we go. Write the answers to this problem below. Your instructor will guide you to the following example. Instructor is me. You're lucky. Journalize the following transaction completed during July of the current year. Use page 13 of a general journal. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, we do already have page 13 listed there. And the abbreviation for check is C. So we do have July 3rd. Transaction number 1 reads, paid cash to establish petty cash fund, $250, C57. Okay, so this is the one transaction that businesses do only once, and then after that, they just leave it be. So I'm establishing the petty cash. So I'm going to be affecting account petty cash. She's not here today. I forgot that as soon as I saw you coming back. She's not here. So we have account title is going to be petty cash. Source document is C57. I'm going to do a general debit of $250 and a cash credit of $250. So basically, we are going to the bank with a check for $250, coming back with cash of $250, and we're putting it in that super safe location. Now, you are in a time warp. It is now the end of the month. It went fast, didn't it? Whew! That month of July just flew by. So it's now July 31st. Katie went to the store, Tyson went to the store, Tanner, you went to the store, Ellie went to the store. We all bought different things with petty cash. And so when we look at this transaction right here, it says paid cash to replenish the petty cash fund, $78. So the total amount of cash that was used was $78. Does that make sense? 25 of it went for supplies, 8 went for miscellaneous, and 45 went for repairs. So maybe the printer broke and somebody had to come in and repair it, and then we just paid them cash on the spot. They gave us a receipt. So this transaction is going to take 3 lines, okay? Because it's going to affect supplies, miscellaneous, and repairs. How much is the check being made payable for? $78. Now, this is a common mistake. Let's start with the date. Date is the 31st. The very first item that was listed in our petty cash replenishing was supplies. So we're going to go ahead and use supplies, not supplies expense. Check is C97, and we're going to do supplies of 25. Now, on the very first line that you replenish petty cash is going to be where you put the amount of the check. So I'm going to put 78 here. It is important that it goes on the first line, not down. I have many people that go through and try to do 25, 25, and then 8, 8, 45, 45. You're only affecting cash once for an amount of 78, and it needs to be on the very first line of that transaction. The next one we're going to do is going to be miscellaneous expense, and that's going to be for $8. Then I'm going to do repairs expense for $45. So I have 3 debits and I have 1 credit. Okay? So my 1 credit is on line 2 for 78, but I have 3 debits here that equals $78. Go ahead and try on your own. Happy Accounting Land people, I did turn on application 5-4, which is going to be due tomorrow, which is not a super long one. I also do have your study guide, which is going to be due Monday. Also, don't forget that outline. I will be looking at people that do not have their outline done, and I will be requesting you if you don't get working on that. Fair heads up. Go forth. Complete accounting. Make debits and credits equal. Ha ha.